So gluten is a big issue, especially with people who have digestive distress. There are those who are struggling today with the autoimmune diagnosis of celiac disease. There are people who are struggling today with the symptomatology associated with Crohn's or colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, people who are dealing with digestive distress. And so the conversation, we'll call it the cool thing to do, is to be gluten-free. Now, the interesting thing about those foods that are gluten-free is that they're very high in sugar in order to develop taste. So when you look at a gluten-free product, it might be made with something like rice, or it might be made with something like quinoa, or it might be made with something like soy. And it may be quote unquote, quote, void of the gluten assay that is part of what is known as wheat. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't come with its own accumulative stresses on the body. We weren't designed to be eating even gluten-free foods in mass quantities, because our body isn't designed to even be able to break down all of those foods appropriately. And over time, if it isn't one symptom that's brought you to a gluten-free existence, there will be another that will pull you away from it. So let's understand first, what is gluten? Well, gluten is found in nature. It was found in the wheat personality, the characteristics of wheat. It's been there since the beginning of time, since the creation of wheat in the hands of the creator. Gluten has been part of the conversation. Now, the issue became more prevalent in the human host when we began to genetically modify, when we changed the personality of foods like corn, when we changed the personality of wheat in order to be able to create more mass production, or to be able to quote unquote feed the world. Well, when we genetically modified, when we altered the actual DNA of the plant, we changed the personality of each ingredient that is found, or benefit, vitamin, nutrient that was found in each plant, and the way it responded to the human host. So over time, the gluten stress on the body, because something had been genetically modified with a chemical that wasn't recognized by the human host, we began to suffer digestively. So the natural, by default, response is, oh, it has to be the gluten that I'm responding negatively to. I'm just going to stay away from gluten, and therefore my digestive system will be better. The issue isn't the gluten, because that's been in there since the beginning of time. That would be assuming that God didn't know what he was doing. And I failed to stand before the Most High God and point a finger and ask him what was he possibly thinking, because God makes no mistakes. It's the human intervention that disrupted the gluten's ability to be able to do what it was designed to do. And so when we altered, we changed its chemical characteristics, we put it into the human host, which at one time was designed to be able to process it well, and we asked the human host to deal with the chemical interruption, and that's what causes the disruption in our body. And so if we by default go to gluten-free, we're going to be compounding the issue, placing more of a body burden on an already burdened body, and we're going to cause another level of distress down the road. And then what is the answer? Chasing our tail is the answer. Let's find out why the body cannot process gluten properly, which is normally chemicals, remove the chemical stresses in the digestive processing, and then the body can go back to doing what it was designed to do naturally.